feel grateful for the opportunity to help the community. So what I want to do now is try to not take too much time, but just give you guys an overview of the last few weeks. Talk about some of the successes and challenges we've had, just briefly overview some of the COVID related changes, and then give you a little bit of a projection for the next 2 weeks. And I want to just caveat all this by saying that, I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm not a public health expert. Dora and I are really doing the best we can to evaluate the data. But we are always open to feedback and questions and, emerging research. So we know how tuned in this community is. So if you have resources that conflict anything that we outline, or you have questions, please always feel free to reach out to us. And the best way to do that is at the COVID response at stjohn.org email address, which we check regularly now. From the period of December 21st to February 3rd, we had a total of 39 positive COVID cases in the St. John community. That was 31 students and 8 staff, including XDC. And to just give you a reference point, that compares to 18 total for the school year prior to that point. So you can kind of see how Omicron may have arrived on the scene at St. John right around Christmas time. I don't have a 6-week breakdown from the last 6 weeks of what each week the case count is. So I can't tell you, which is probably what you're most wondering, whether the case count is decreasing at St. John over the last few weeks. But what I will say is that the case count at St. John very closely mirrors King County case counts. So, I did a bunch of math last night, and what we're looking at is at about 1% infection rate per week at St. John over the last 6 weeks. So about 1% of the St. John school population has been impacted, and King County's numbers at about 1.2%. So we are very closely in line with the community spread. One of the huge successes that I would like to call out, and I think it just speaks so highly of our administration, our staff, our teachers, our students, is that we really have not identified school transmission. So Dora and I have looked very closely at positive cases over the last few weeks to make sure that we're not seeing patterns that would suggest school transmission, and we really are not. So I just want to say that I think the school is really doing a great job, and I think parents are doing an amazing job, and really everybody is working hard to make sure that that doesn't occur. And that really is what will keep our kids in school. So well done. Over the last few weeks, we've been doing PCR testing for students, as well as occasionally family members who have trouble getting an appointment. Rapid tests for the school arrived last week. So we have a school supply of rapid tests, and we have the ability to order them once a week from the State Department of Health. And so that has been really useful, because there have been a few instances where we've been able to test on site and get an answer right away. And in some cases, very few, that has resulted in a student needing to go home. So it's just been really nice to be able to have those and to be able to offer them to families who may need them. So it's a great resource. Some of the challenges that we've been having are determining and communicating appropriate guidance to families, particularly around household exposures, given Omicron's transmissibility. So one of the changes that was made that you may have seen in news views that Dora and I helped to work on based on emerging research about Omicron is a test to return policy if your student is returning from a positive COVID infection on day 6 or beyond. based on research that Omicron in about 1/3 of cases is still contagious at day 6. And that number decreases as you go from day 6 to day 10. But we really felt that given the small size of the St. John community, we felt it was just a bit more vulnerable and we needed to be a little bit more conservative than the general CDC guidelines. So that's why we have made the decision to ask for a test to return. And so far, there has not been any negative pushback about that, and families have been really receptive. And one thing that we're trying to do is when those cases come up, Dora and I are working very directly with families and staying in communication with them about their timeline, having a back and forth and making sure that they have rapid tests available to them and giving them to families if they need them. The other change that we've made is around contact tracing. What Dora and I determined is that the notion of a close contact at St. John, actually, because St. John is doing such a good job about keeping students socially distanced, the students are really consistent about wearing masks. We didn't feel that there were really many instances at all where students were considered close contacts, with the exception of some of the lower grades, so pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade. And so what we have done is moved away from placing phone calls to close contacts and essentially emailing families when there's a positive case in the classroom, so that families can then be responsible for monitoring their student and testing on day 5 after exposure if they choose to do so. We are at times contacting families by phone if the situation calls for it. So we're using a little bit more of a, I guess, personalized approach, but we had to really move away from making a lot of phone calls because it just wasn't sustainable. And it didn't feel necessary because of the efforts that St. John has been going to. And so then quickly, Sarah, do I have a few more minutes?
Yes, this is so helpful. Yes, okay. Keep going.
Okay, good. I know it's on everybody's mind, and I have to say it's front of mind for me because my entire family of 5 just spent all week dealing with COVID. So I've had my kindergartner and third grader home and everybody's been sick. So it's like, I'm thinking about this and we're dealing with it. And we've been a little bit of a real life case study on how transmissible it is within a family. So I want to give you, and this is where I really want to caveat that I'm not a public health expert. I'm a, healthcare professional, kind of doing the best that I can, but I want to give you a little bit of a projection about the next 2 weeks so that you can just sort of have your head wrapped around what this is all looking like. So I'm going to share my screen for a second because the 2 metrics that I felt like might be the most useful for us to look at would be Seattle Public Schools numbers, as well as King County numbers, to give a sense of where we're headed. So okay. So as you can see, is this working, Sarah? Okay.
Yep, looks good.
As you can see, Omicron really had its way in Seattle Public Schools and peaked the week ending in January 14th. For the last 2 weeks, cases have been declining quite significantly. So I think that's really reassuring, and it gives us kind of a snapshot of what numbers are looking like in schools across our community. So that's good news. And then the other good news is that, sorry, I'm really clumsy with this.
You would think 2 years into a pandemic, Zoom would make it really easy to share screen.
I mean, it's just
come on, also, Zoom.
My touchpad is really, I need a mouse is what I need. So you can see this is the whole pandemic.
We're seeing, Lee, we're seeing your email inbox.
Oh, you are? Oh, yeah. Super. Okay. So how do I get?
I think you're maybe one tab over from where you want to be.
Okay.
Oh yeah, if you.
Oh,
Huh?
how do I get now to the link?
I saw that you had it up.
Are you watching me Google now?
Yes.
How fun is this? Okay. Well, essentially what I want to, here we go. What I want to show everyone, can you see this now?
Yes.
Okay. So what you can see is that Omicron is incredibly contagious, high case rates, but since the week ending in January 10th, case rates have been declining. So that's great news, but you can still see that they're very high. So, I mean, if we're right here, and this is where we were during the entire pandemic, case rates are still, community transmission is still very high. So all this to say that we're still going to be in this for a little while. I think we're going to be seeing, a lot of cases for at least the next few weeks. I can't say for certain how many weeks that'll be, but we're not out, but we are trending in the right direction. So I think we're not going to see worse than what we've been seeing, but it's hard to say how long it will be until it gets a lot better. And so some of the ways that parents can help are to know that that COVID response email exists and that we check it regularly. So you can send any questions, contact tracing questions, testing timing questions. Do I do a PCR versus a rapid antigen? I mean, it's just so overwhelming for families. And I think parents, I know for myself, and I have to suspect it's true for a lot of other parents, we are so burned out. And there are so many different avenues of information. I want parents to feel like there is now a resource for them to go to within the school community to have these questions answered, where they don't feel like they're burdening Pablo and Bernadette, who are working tirelessly on many, many other things. So that is available to you as a resource. Being aware of the rapid test to return policy if returning on day 6, between days 6 and 10. And then ensuring that your kiddos wear a high quality mask to school right now during this time of Omicron. I suspect this will not be as important for a long time to come, but right at this very moment in time in our small St. John community, that is probably the biggest thing that families can do to reduce transmission within our school community is to wear a high quality mask. Probably even more so than vaccination status right at this moment. So that would be a N95 or a KF94. And in the last news views that went out, there was a list of reputable resources to get those masks. And all that to say, if you have trouble getting masks, please contact the COVID response email address and we can assist you.
And just to piggyback on that accessibility piece, KN95 masks are not inexpensive given their high demand.
Yeah.
So if there's families that are struggling just with the financial component of masking, also feel free to reach out to the school for support around that, because I think that's an important part of our fair share mission as well, is that we support families that need that.
That's a great point, Sarah. Thank you.
Lee, that was awesome. Thank you. Do any folks have any questions? It's nice to see the trend going the direction that it's going.
Yes.
And hopefully those numbers keep dropping at a steep rate.
I hope so. Yeah. And I just really want to reiterate how, I'm so grateful to be part of this community. I'm really proud to be part of it because of the efforts that everybody has gone to, and just being in the building and seeing the kids too, and the way that they are handling all this has been actually really, really moving. So your kids are awesome.
We're so grateful for all the time that you and Dora are putting into this, because it feels really comprehensive to have medical professionals who can really look at this stuff through that lens of expertise. And I'm sure that's just, I know it's a huge burden off of Paul and Bernadette's plate. So thank you, Lee and Dora. All right. Karen is here, and Karen Bombino is going to talk about auction. So Karen, I see that you're here. If you want to unmute, on or off camera, whatever you want to do to give us the update.
Hi, guys. I just want to say thank you to the COVID team. That just sounded really amazing. I have to laugh because I was literally, my hands were making the French toast that the kids are having this morning because I'm in the kitchen. So the smells are just amazing, and there's like 15 people. And so it's
Uh-oh, you're frozen, Karen.
stress that comes along with it. So can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you froze for a minute. I think you're back.
Okay, sorry, I'll get closer to the kitchen, but it's loud. So my name is Karen Bombino. I have two kids here, one in 7th grade and one in 5th. And I have a 9th grader. And I am kind of doing events for St. John right now. I did the endowment, and I'm really happy to say, as of last night, I think we collected $76,890. That's with matching. They're still coming in because sometimes it takes a little while for companies to, sorry, I'm breathing heavy, to bring in the matching. So thank you so much, St. John. You guys are amazing. I really appreciate it. As for the auction, it is still, and we are keeping our fingers crossed. I know I just heard all about COVID, but we're hoping for April 8th in person. We do have the backup plan of being virtual. So we don't know, but just say prayers or whatever you do to see that it's in person, because I think it would be really wonderful. It's going to be at Fremont Studio on April 8th. Like I said, it's a Friday. Yeah, and if it's not in person, we'll do, a bang up job virtually. So we're excited about that. Procurement through the grades and from families has been amazing. The donation deadline is next Friday, actually, the 11th. And that's just because we can have time to put the catalog together and a couple other things that we need to do. Sometimes putting smaller items with bigger items to make a group package. But no, it's been amazing. Regardless if we're going virtual in person, there'll be some amazing packages. And like I said, thank you so much, St. John. Families, you have been extremely generous. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask them. Like I said, if you're going to ask about in person, I'm hoping, but I don't know. So, and that's not a decision I make.
Karen, do you want to say anything about sponsorship options? Because I know that there's still some of those open, and there's a deadline for that. Yeah,
Sarah, great question. So the same deadline is February 11th. And that's just so that we can get everything together. And we still have a couple options at 5,000, 2,500. And then we have unlimited options at 500 and 1,000. And a check just came in this morning. So I think we're about $32,000, which I'm so thankful and so happy. But yes, I think it's a great way. And I don't know if you guys have been seeing the emails, but we do have a pretty good open rate. We're about 65% on our auction emails, which is pretty high for an email. So people are reading the emails and looking at, if you want your business to be there, you will get noticed. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Great exposure opportunity. And a 65 in my line of work, a 20% open rate is good. So I don't know like what this magic open rate is that you have, but please come like give me a touring session.
You know what, Sarah, when Andrea told me the open rate, I'm like, what? That's ridiculous. It's always under 50%. Like, I like my marketing, but oh my goodness, that is a crazy. But that's just, to me, that speaks to our community and just how involved we are and wanting to know what's happening. So Thank you. I do want to remind people that it is our biggest fundraiser. And so if you could bid, we'd be very happy if you could do so. So especially during COVID when, we've had to use our funds for other things. So
thank you so much, Karen, for all the auction stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to do it.
That's a big task.
Yes. And if you guys have any questions.
Oh, you froze again. If folks have questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat in case Karen.
Oh, I froze.
Okay, there you are. I'm just hanging out for a second to see if any questions come in.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. I'm not seeing any auction questions. If you do have one, go ahead and feel free to unmute, throw it out there. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and move on. Thank you so much, Karen. And thank you for the stuff you're doing
No
for
problem.
our,
Happy to do it.
thanks for all the French toast love this morning.
Yeah, there's 16 sheets of French toast. It's a good time.
Oh my
So
gosh.
we're good. Okay.
Oh my
Bye,
gosh.
guys.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, Karen.
Yeah, no
Bye.
problem. No problem. Bye.
All right. Oh my gosh. We have such great parent helpers, parent support, and like people who are I know when I listen to Lee talk and I'm like, she knows so many things about things I don't know about. And then I hear Karen talk and I'm like, running an auction sounds absolutely terrifying. So I'm so grateful that we have people that enjoy these areas of expertise that are so completely foreign to others of us. Okay. So next we're going to talk about upcoming speakers. So Alan and I have been working on getting in a couple speakers, which is, it's a whole situation of coordinating schedules and all sorts of things. So we have 2 people lined up. One is actually confirmed schedule wise. So we have, oh shoot, Alan, help me. What is Frank's last name?
Bernardo.
Thank you. I don't have it on my form here. I just have
Okay,
Frank.
I'm going to post it.
Okay. So we have Frank Bernardo. I probably still got that wrong. So I'm a visual person. Oh, there we go. Frank Bernardo. Oh, I didn't get it too bad. So he is works with New Ways Ministry, and he's actually going to be coming in and talking to us about the intersection of the LGBTQ plus community and the church. And he's a really amazing leader and educator. And huge shout out to Rachel Groark, who is making this connection for us. So this is a conversation we're going to be having for a parent education or PA series night on March 16th. Alan, can you double check that date? So March 16th, Frank is going to be coming and talking with us. Rachel will also be on that call and be supporting that conversation as well. And we are just really excited and honored to be able to hold space for this conversation. It's something that Alan and I believe is really, really important to our community. And we know there's a lot of parents who feel the same way, and a lot of our staff, administration, school commission have been wanting to make space to have this conversation in a way that's really thoughtful and supportive of our entire community. So we're really excited about that. And then we also have Jasmine Bradshaw. We've been bouncing around dates, so I can't give a super specific date just yet, but Jasmine Bradshaw is a race and culture educator. She's a former 2nd grade teacher. And she's going to be coming in and talking about race and culture, how to talk to your kids about race. What do you say when your kid says something racist? How do you celebrate other cultures in ways that are sensitive to other cultures rather than exploitative of them? And she's just a phenomenal educator. And I've learned so many things from her over the last few years, and she's really excited to come in. So that is in the works. That will probably not happen until April. But those are our next 2 people that we have lined up. And they're both excited to come in and speak, and we are just super honored to have them. So that's in the speaker pipeline. Catholic School Week. So Catholic School Week debrief, I feel like, Alan, I'm going to give this to you because you did so much more than me. So I'm not going to pretend that I know everything that happened, but every single day this week, the school supported the community in different ways to celebrate different members of our community and different leaders in our community and different contingencies in our community. And it's been really amazing to watch. Things came together really fast because of Omicron. Planning for anything from an administrative perspective has been really tricky and complicated, and also had to be pushed to the back burner a lot because Omicron took up such immediate need on a daily basis for the school administration. And so I will just tell you that things that came together for State of the School and Catholic Schools Week happened rapid fire succession, and they've been just pulled off so beautifully in spite of them having to be really hustled into completion. So do you want to talk a little bit more specifically about Catholic Schools Week, Alan, and what has happened and where we're at?
I mean, you guys are just amazing. Like Sarah said, we were raising the question over a couple of months, what is Catholic Schools Week going to look like for us as a PA team? How could we support it best? And, we just didn't know what the general COVID situation would even look like. So it was really amazing to see first, our lunch monitors really step up. You guys, I mean, that is such a huge thing that helps the teachers. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to talk to, I was just talking to Miss Oinus about it on Wednesday, how grateful she was to just be able to sit down and eat a real lunch. That is so enormous. And to give them that on Catholic Schools Week, where, you know, it's super celebratory, but at the same time, there's even more stuff that they've got to tack onto their agendas. And, you know, fourth grade, they were just asked to set up their lunch like in 2 weeks. And I don't know what you guys are like, but for your grades, but if any of the teams that I've ever been connected to was asked to like put together a big lunch for the teachers in 2 weeks, it would have been really difficult, but they did it with no issues. Yeah, today we are still going to celebrate in the cafeteria, and the 8th grade parents are in there right now decorating. And I think they'll have some games, some trivia type games and some loud music. And yesterday, you know, everybody got the purple beads. You guys are just great. I don't know. What else is there to say?
I want to also just acknowledge the effort on the behalf of every single parent and household that it takes when there's like something different to remember every single day of Catholic School Week, where you're like, wait, which day is today? And what should I wear? And if you have a child like mine, like having different decision-making around clothing can be a really big deal. And so it's just a lot to keep track of. And I know there can be moments of like, oh, why are we doing like, it feels like a lot. Can we just wear uniforms, or can we just like, it just feels like a lot to keep track of. And when we see it all come together, the impact on the community, especially when the community has had so few opportunities to come together in these really precious and magical ways, is so huge. So for all the extra effort and potentially tears that you put into like getting your kids dressed differently this week, or grabbing one flower stem, or just doing those things that sound little in an email, but sometimes feel like massive feats at 8 a.m. in the morning. Just huge thank you for that level of participation as well. Any other feedback or questions or comments on Catholic School Week?
Yeah, sincerely, if you guys have any anything to say about Catholic Schools Week, stuff that we could do better for next year. I mean, clearly we could have used more time.
But then that would make January be longer, and that cannot happen.
Right, right. It didn't help that Catholic Schools Week was kind of a week earlier this year, right?
It was on the earlier end. Yeah. All right. So everybody remember to register your child to come back to school next year. I know that I sometimes am like, oh, I'll get to that later, but it's actually really important. And I mean, obviously it's important to ensure your child's spot, but it's also really important because it helps Jonna with her wait list of incoming families to be able to start giving those families information in terms of spots available at every grade level, and giving those families who in our community who are like desperately waiting to get into our school, a timeline as to whether like what the potential for that looks like. So get your registration taken care of. I believe, Alan, can you remind me the deadline? I have no dates on my notes.
Matt, what's the deadline? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's February 9th.
That was gonna be my guess. February 9th. So
I
February
was going
9th.
to say the 11th, but there's no school on the 11th, so it's Wednesday the 9th.
That's right.
Oh, okay. No, I remember reading the 9th, I believe, last night as well. So getting that squared away is just obviously important, and we all want your kids back there. Oh yes, thank you, Alan, for that shout out in the chat. Aaliyah, yes, thank you for the vases. Aaliyah's company donated like 30 or 40, I think, vases for all of the flower stems that went into all of the classrooms, plus administrative people, like all of that. So huge thank you. That was so generous. Thank you. Okay, along the lines of registration, we have an added agenda item that came up from registration, from people starting to go through the process of registration. So we got feedback, and this is actually not the first time we've gotten this feedback related to just filling out school forms. So we got feedback around, is it possible to update some of the language on our forms to be more inclusive? So in the spots where there's an ask on gender, can there be more options than just male, female? In the spot where there's an ask on marital status, can there be space for more than just married or divorced? So that is really valuable feedback. And if you know Alan and I, we're always waving our inclusivity flags. So anytime that you see something like that and you're like, maybe this isn't quite up to like 2022 standards around language and being as inclusive as possible in language. If you see something like that, please feel free to reach out. We will be bringing this conversation to school commission and then also just to our administrative team so that forms can get updated in a way that's appropriate so that everyone in our community can be acknowledged as the humans that they are in the way that's, appropriate for them. So that's a really important step. And I think sometimes people might just notice something and think nothing of it, or think it's not their place to say something. And these are things that other people might not notice or just kind of mindlessly scroll past that actually really matter a lot to other people. So I just want to thank people who have reached out about inclusive language. We've also had requests for starting to do some land acknowledgements in different places in the school and different meeting times. And so these are all things that are going to be discussed. And if you see something, and if there's something you want to bring up right now, please feel free to do so. But just know that Alan and I really want to be supportive of recognizing language and how the importance of it in our community. Does anyone want to add anything on that or have anything that you've been noticing that you would like to bring up? I know, so quiet. Are people just tired?
Catholic Schools Week took a lot out of us.
I know. No, people, you should have like a 2 coffee minimum before you come to this call.
I'm just looking at this list right now too, and trying to figure out how many of us are like volunteering today as well as doing this. So
right.
So I get it. Yeah.
All right.
Thank
so
you, guys.
Yes. Thank you. That's the last agenda item I have. Does anyone have questions on anything that we've said or anything you wanted to add to the conversation? Anything? I also want to highlight Lauren's note that running the auction is awesome and everyone should try it. Because Lauren is the eternal like auction optimist and recruiter. And so Lauren, we have your back. Even though I'm terrified of the auction, everyone should totally try running it. Okay, if there's nothing else, then we will let you go enjoy your Friday. And just a final thank you to everything that you have done so far in 2022. We're so honored to be in this with you and continue to let Alan and I know how we can support you.